welcome to the ToverTon podcast. My name is Chelsea Lagan.
And I'm Connor Chadwick.
And on today's special 2-year anniversary of the TT Productions podcast, we will be showing 2 previously Patreon exclusives to celebrate. So Connor, how are you today, darling?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. It's been getting a few early mornings here and there, and I'm not used to it whatsoever.
Yes, for context, we are currently sat at mine with a load of other people.
Yes, we are next to each other.
Big meet-up, yes.
Oh, I know, it's been crazy.
One of our friends from New Zealand has been over for the past few weeks, and we've been able to find this period of time in August to be able to get everyone available and free.
I know. I just didn't expect the amount of people.
It's different when you plan it and you look at the list. You're like, oh, that's not much, and you're in this apartment, which is a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's like, wow, yeah, very, very different.
There's been definitely very interesting sleeping dynamics.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, so you were saying it was. We went to the TT getaway.
Yes, we did. Oh,
yes.
Oh, that was so much fun.
That was fun. That was a little the vlog's already out. It came out like the weekend after. It's a nice little scout hut, wasn't it? Nice little fire pit. Had a little hall for playing games and music and stuff like that.
Some ghosts.
Oh yeah, yes, hauntings.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. We were I was trying to settle to sleep, and then there was like a loud metal bang.
Indeed.
Yes.
It was just crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought we really had a lot of fun then. It was a really nice kind of out of the way secluded area. It wasn't really anything that was terribly, like, it wasn't too busy, and we didn't really see many people. We were really nice and isolated and just got to all hang out properly, didn't we?
I like for the not the last TT getaway we had, but the very first one that I went to, we were in the middle of a town, and I think this time we didn't really want that. We wanted to actually spend time together and do things together. Like if you look at the video that we made, like the vlog, we went mini golfing, and we were like just genuinely spending one-to-one time with everybody. Yeah, which is really great because, like, especially for me, I don't get to see people that often because I'm over in Ireland and you are obviously all over here. But it was really good. It was really good to see everyone. But we also listened to some episodes before their actual official release.
Yes, we did. Yes, but we will leave that until another segment because you've been recording for that little thing recently, haven't we?
Oh yes, I have.
It. And as you know, you record live, don't you?
Oh, I love recording live. I love it. Speaking of which,
what a wonderful segue!
I know. Look at that. Look, I'm getting used to this now. Now we are going to listen to a Patreon exclusive, and we are going to be talking about how we record live and what it actually means to record live, because a lot of people get, they get maybe overwhelmed by the fact that we record live and everything, but hopefully with this little segment, it will give you a more in-deep and in-delve dive to it. So cue the video.
Hello guys, welcome to TT Productions, the TT Chat. Today I'm joined by Abby Louise, Grace Beard, Chelsea Lagan, Zach Rosenfield, and Emily Jane, and of course myself, James York. And we're going to be talking about live recordings. So the floor is yours, people. So what do we think of? So who would like to describe how we do live recordings? Abby.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, I feel like a teacher, don't I? Just
If you don't put your hand up, it'll just pick on you.
Yes, I'll just So what is live
Really?
What is live recordings?
So at TT we do live recordings over Zen. That way we get the interaction with the other actors and stuff and get to bounce off of each other. It's just nicer than speaking to a brick wall all the time. So you actually like the whole point of acting is reacting, and when you don't have that person to react to, you don't know how they've said the line, you don't know how you're supposed to respond because you don't know how they've express their feelings in that line, if that makes any sense. So yeah, basically we record together over something called Zencaster.
Brilliant. And obviously for those who, so obviously when recording live, you can have as many people in the scene, and you can, obviously record more or less, even though there's been many a times, all the you recording at the same time, there's not really any particular delays or anything like that, although sometimes that can happen.
Red waterfall.
Or we have red waterfalls.
Amen.
So with any piece of technology, there's always glitches in the system. So
it's funny though, but we do work through it, but most of the time it's just hilarious.
Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Especially when you get somebody new in.
Is it a live recording without a fit of giggles every now and again? Is it?
That's the point,
Definitely
isn't
not.
it?
That's the point.
You get that camaraderie between everybody. It's just
Yeah.
faffing around. And line fluffs. Line fluffs are 10 times funnier when
They
And you're like,
are.
blah, 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 blah.
Especially when you're doing quite an emotional
Chelsea's
scene.
face.
Especially when you're staying in character especially when it's staying in character when they fluff it, because it just makes it even better.
I don't
So
have a
funny.
notion what you are talking about. I do completely just one-offs,
So, well, Chelsea, so as a voice actor, just like, fudge. So, Chelsea, obviously as a voice actor, obviously you have done multiple types of recordings, and obviously recording live. How does that feel, and how does that compare to sort of recording by yourself, or like if other ways that you've done recording in the past?
It's a major difference. It really is, because like I've been doing voice acting nearly 5 years, coming up in this July, and all I used to do was either, well, before I got my lovely setup, thank you, Abby Louise, I used to just record on my phone, and like Abby was saying, you can't exactly tell like the type of emotion that person is given, or even like just like the tone in which they speak. That is a big major difference, especially with live recording. So whenever I came to TT in the first place, that was my first proper experience of recording with somebody. And there's been a pile of times when, especially some of the recent stuff that me and Abby recorded together, where there's just like these full on like action scenes. There's a lot of running, there's a lot of action. And it's really good to have that person there in that scene with you. And so you can bounce off them completely. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it does give you a wild, massive like head, but it's worth it, especially recording live, because you just have that pure like, you even get an adrenaline rush from doing it, especially with somebody. So
Even
again,
the like wound down scenes, just like Chelsea was saying, me and her done some Jenny and Molly stuff
Mhm.
for an audio called Cluster. And as well as the like upbeat running stuff, we also had a lot of like heart to heart moments, and it's just nice to have both of us on
it
kind
wouldn't
of
have been the same.
the same
wouldn't have been the
emotional
same without
level.
it.
And it really did show as the director, when you record a very particular scene, I could really feel the emotions coming from the both of you. And when you are recording with each other, you can get into it even more, and when you are feeling that emotion, it really shows.
Yeah. So Zach, obviously from a director's sort of perspective, how do you feel when you are recording live? Is it this case of, you're able to instruct people a bit more better? You're able to, what are kind of the benefits directing on recording lives?
Well, you can't. Like I said, when you're in the moment, of course, we would record like a practice. We record like a practice round beforehand to get the feel of the scenes, especially if it's a newer character, because they don't necessarily know at that point how the character would interact in the moment. But actually instruct it. But when they do the take, obviously with a bit of positive reinforcement, and some extra pointers on the side, it does help, because you can get there in the moment, and you get people to listen. And when they do, because normally from when you listen to even the smallest notion, it really helps bring out the performance.
I will say this to start with. for like anybody who's not done the live recordings with us, when you first join, it does feel really awkward. I will say this now. It's audio acting on a different level. Purely because I'm going to use Scarlet Lust and Razalon Productions as an example here. So he had to do a struggle. He had to be struggling, and Chelsea's character was like holding him down. Now you wouldn't have had that much of an interaction if we hadn't done it live, because literally, like Chelsea, you can hear them both like struggling with each other. But we've spoken to Raz about this, and like the initial practice, you do feel like a bit of a twat.
You do feel like a twat.
Yeah, but then as soon as action's called, it's like the first time me and Ali had done sword fighting in Paternoster Gang bike called Battle of Bow, with sword fighting throughout the whole of one scene in the background. And to start with, I say you do feel like a bit of an idiot, but once you get into that kind of mindset, you do some stupid noises. I dread to think what people think we're doing all the time.
On that note as well, adding on to what I was saying earlier, when you with those, and what you're saying, Abby, with those things, it's not just the serious parts of performing. It's also the jokey parts as well, because obviously because everyone is laughing, ad-libbing, getting into these things. It brings up that sense of camaraderie.
It does. And I think for me, as respects, not only as someone who is an actor, but also is an editor. I mean, obviously we'll come to it. One of the major benefits, we'll come to it a bit later on. But the fact is that you have all your cast there, or majority of your cast there, and you're able to get that interaction between cast members, because obviously, so for those who do not know, myself and Grace, we're part of the Queer Doctor team for which season 1 and season 2 is coming is coming out as we speak on the TT channel. So Grace, obviously we had done we did that. So obviously season 1 we did it the old-fashioned way of recording on our phones and recording it line by line, and then to sort of with season 2 we get to use the Zencaster. How did you feel as a companion and also as a voice actor, and the two experiences?
I was very anxious and thought I would let you down.
Oh.
Big difference, wasn't it, from season 1 recording it on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I've got a massive microphone now. I don't know what to do. what do I do?
I think we all were nervous. I knew that I was when we had this thing called Zencaster, because it was this new piece of technology, and
it becomes that slightly more of a level of professionalism.
Oh,
doesn't it?
completely.
You got a microphone and like
I love this is like my
like
baby.
a whole full-on
Yeah.
setup.
I love this thing.
It's just a completely different kettle of fish. You get into the mindset of it being a little bit more than just, it is a hobby, but you try it comes across like it needs to come across a little bit more professional, purely because you've got a setup. You know?
Yeah.
Indeed.
I can't go back to like, see, that's one thing. Like, see, if anybody asked me to like send in some auditions or whatever, or see if I have to, do some like, so auditions for example, like, see, it's like whenever you're talking to a brick wall, you're like, it's so much different. Or people asking you to send lines in, and I'm like, can I not just like send it in with everybody else? Like, and talk to them, please.
Yeah.
But it's just like, even if I have like a small character and there's a whole, I would rather record with a group, because now I've gotten so used to this, and so now I can like feel like, like the energy that they're giving me, and I can like reciprocate that back. And now I'm just like, hello, my name is Chelsea. I am recording this. I have lines. I have lines. Nobody's talking back to me, and I'm by myself. It's not the same.
Because you're the newbie.
Yes,
I'm the
you
newbie.
are.
Yeah.
How has the change into like proper full-on acting been for you?
It's been really good. Like, obviously you do feel like a bit of a weirdo when you first do it, you do, but then you get into it. But it's good to
She's not even had to run yet.
No. I have. There's that scene where me and Chelsea are running up a hill in Molly.
Oh yeah.
But no, I've worked on lots of productions where I've literally not had no interaction with anybody else, and it's just a bit boring, really. You don't know
This is the other
what
thing
you're gonna do.
that I try to do with TT is I'd like to be like, oh, have you worked with Chelsea Lagan? And I could be like, yeah, I've literally acted alongside Chelsea Lagan, whereas a lot of the other groups, like, oh yeah, I've done work with blah blah, but I've never actually interacted with them, you know?
Like the thing with me, what you did with Aidan, you made sure that I'd met him before we filmed stuff for Molly, just so it wasn't really awkward when we were like
especially when they're supposed to be like couples and stuff. Like I try to cast couples. I try to kind of have them on the same kind of wavelength, like so they have that chemistry, like Chelsea and Brandon, you and Aidan. Because especially Chelsea and Brandon, some of the scenes they've had to do together, you need to have that like that level of trust in each other. You do, because you do sound like a twat, and the urge to just laugh and giggle at one another is very high. But I'll say this, for scenes like that, yes, even scenes like that, we do live, we do together, and we turn on that professional like head. And then as soon as the scene's done, we all burst out.
We just
laughing.
become giggling schoolgirls. We're like, oh my god. But so, Abby,
Hi.
I'm going to ask you, as a fellow editor, how does recording live and recording with Zencastr compare to how it was normally done, or people who don't normally use Zencast?
So both of us have obviously done both ways. I hate puzzling.
Same.
Like it's no wonder. I know a lot of other companies struggle to get their stuff out quickly, and it's purely because either they're having to chase up lines, nobody's sending lines in, and the fact that they're having to like puzzle everybody's like individual clips together. Whereas we literally download the track, line the tracks up, and then when everybody messes up, you just cut that bit out and then just squeeze it back together again. And then you just put filters on their voices. All the timing's right, unless you're Chris and your internet's messing around, and it's just highly hilarious. Like it is. It's just because you don't have to worry about timings and like people interrupting people. It's the exact point they're going to be interrupted. As an example, I will use Jack's audio game to audio adaptations. Now, Dalek was a puzzle piece, whereas I'm working on Blood of the Cybermen at the moment, and it's just Alia and Jack being Alia and Jack. There's so many there's so many fluffs. Those two are the worst gigglers. It's fantastic. But once again, I'll line up the tracks, and then when they laugh for 20 minutes, I'll just got that 20 minutes out and then just squash the tracks back together again, you know?
I think for me, it's just it's timing. It's the fact that for me, when I did do Queer with the Jigsaw, it would take me almost a whole day to do probably half an episode. Whereas now, if I really was to really focus, I could probably get a whole episode in a bit.
Well, we've done it on Zooms. Like Chelsea will be like, "Oh, that scene was really good," or Emily will be like, "Oh, that scene was really good," and I'll be like, "Do you guys want to listen?" And literally, while we're on a Zoom, I will just go onto Adobe Audition, line up the tracks, put some form of a background in it, and then like it's done. I can show you that one scene. It's so much more simpler. Like as an example, literally in about 2 minutes I put up the scene in from Molly with Chelsea throwing her guts up in front of Vanessa. Literally it's just like this is like I'm really proud of my thrown up scene. I'm like, do you want to hear it? Yeah, sure. So we're all sat here on the Zoom. 2 minutes later the thrown up scene's done. Like
I think for me it's also there's no the awkwardness silence. You know, there's like 1 to 2 seconds between when you're having a conversation. There isn't really a 1 to 2 seconds, but normally
or there's the right amount of gap.
Yeah.
Like some of the like slower scenes in like Molly and in Cluster, like there's a scene when me and Molly are on the underground, and obviously you don't want that scene to be bush, 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 bush. And
Take your
you've
time
got
with it.
gaps, you've got gaps, but they're not forced gaps. They're like natural.
But that's great about
pauses.
recording, because
Yeah.
we just have that vibe of just like, we know what this scene, like the emotion in this scene anyway. So it's just all slowing down pace, and you're keeping at the same pace with another person. Whereas if you were just sending lines in and the other person's maybe, you know, that tad bit quicker than you, and it's just like you just get the whole pace right. Like Abby said, it's acting and reacting with each other, which is, I wouldn't be able to do the same.
Well, we've cried, haven't we, Chelsea?
How many? What time? I've
like-
cried a lot.
Chelsea just spends most of her time crying, but she does
That's
play.
it.
But you do play Molly. It's just part and parcel.
Yeah.
But like the scenes, I'm going to big up Cluster again. The Cluster's not even out till September, but
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
But there's a lot of emotional stuff as well,
Yeah.
and there were scenes
Completely.
when me and Chelsea were literally on the verge of crying.
I
you
was
know,
crying, but you know.
She was crying, but Molly's.
was
That's
crying
great.
directing
That's
that.
great again, because like you get those live reactions. Like if I didn't do like those, if I didn't do those scenes with you and I was just recording by myself, I wouldn't have given that same emotion, the same everything. Even though I have the script in front of me, I'm sitting here talking and everything. It just adds that next level of emotion whenever you have somebody there with you.
I do think it helps though, because of the stuff we're doing recently as well with the live recordings. A lot of the people here, other than maybe Emily, have reoccurring characters. So we kind of know what that character's like. We know how that character would react. And it kind of works to our advantage, because as well, like writing wise, we know how people are going to interpret certain lines. But I say, recording live is just has so many benefits. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The only thing is about it is obviously sometimes people's internet isn't great, or like sometimes like with Jess, who played Sophia in Scarlet, I had to ring her because she couldn't hear, but we could hear her. So I had to put her between my headphones so that she could hear. But we made it work. It worked. We worked it.
Yeah.
But I will say this: anybody new, because I know we have some new people in Molly 2 and R101. We will figure out ways for you to record live. Because the internet in general tends to cope better with Zen than it does Zoom. So if you can work Zoom, your internet will be perfectly fine with Zen.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think that's with any sort of audio productions, you know, I think from us to other fan productions to I bet even Big Finish, you know, you're gonna have those problems. You're gonna have those technological problems. It's just how you resolve and find solutions, really, isn't it?
I'll say this as well. Sometimes, obviously, people have lives, people have jobs, people have family, yada yada yada. We try and cater so you can record live even if it's not with the right people. So no matter what, you will be interacting with either one member of cast and we'll get a stand-in for the other characters or whatever. Like, as an example, Emily wasn't able to record with the whole crew of us for Cluster, so we got her in, and myself and Zach stood in for the other characters, so she still got that reaction thing, not necessarily with the right like people, but she still got people to react with. And that's one thing we do. We try to cater for everyone, because like I said, this isn't a job, this is a hobby. And we try to do our best to try and give everybody that experience. I mean, even Big Finish do it where the actors can't get there, so they just have a stand-in, like Paul McGann and Sheridan Smith as an example, Lucy Miller and the Eighth Doctor. they weren't hardly ever recording together. So I just got images of Nick Briggs standing in for Sheridan Smith, like, hello.
Recent Fourth Doctor adventures as well. I mean, recently released ones rather, because a lot of the time Tom Baker was a bit too sick to do anything, so they got other people in.
Yeah, I say. So we've taken a leaf out of Big Finish's book there, but yeah, it's just nice, and I like I know we do have like TT regulars like us lot, but I do try to get new people into the cast because I'm always had this mission mindset of trying to expand the TT family and like incorporate other people in. So,
yeah. And I think that it's good to get fresh faces and new voices. I think especially for me with, you know, if you're doing like a fan series of Doctor Who like myself, you know, doing Queer, I know for the upcoming season I'm going to be getting try and get more faces, new voices, because it adds more element. Yes, if you're going to have a cast that, you know, I was so grateful for the cast that we did, even though there were loads of people that voiced different voices and did different things.
I kind of feel like you need a mixture of the two.
You do.
I'm going to use Scarlett as another example once again, but it's just nice because Chelsea was there to like talk Jess and Raz through the scenes because obviously she's a voice acting veteran. So like you have the regulars in to try to coach the newbies and make them not feel like they're twats. You know, that's my new word.
or just make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, you know, just make them feel
embrace. Yeah,
the TT veterans, like
TT veterans.
I've all meant to have fun.
We've all been here very long times, haven't we?
Haven't. We've not even a year old yet.
I know, but it's
Chelsea's the only veteran here.
We've been here for 30 years.
Recording on the phone doesn't count for me.
You.
Oh, the days of recording a phone. Oh my god.
But no, this is my baby. This is my thing.
Yeah, same. I've got a set up under my staircase. I've got like a little studio. I love it. It's so great.
I'm going to be recording in a caravan soon.
We love that.
That's it, my wee studio.
It's going to be so many egg boxes.
Oh, geez, of course.
The foamy caravan.
Yeah.
No, a foamy caravan. So okay. Yeah, so that was obviously learn about recording live with TT Productions. Thank you so much everyone for coming in and letting in your voice and your opinions and your experiences, and hope to see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I'm pushing the completely wrong button. Try again. Bye.
And welcome back to the podcast. That was a very good segment about recording live, wasn't it?
I know, I love it. I love it.
Indeed. And we were just talking about, just before we mentioned that, we were talking about something that you'd recorded recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got a little early sneak peek of something that links into it at the TT Getaway.
Yes, this was only released officially last week, so it's still fairly new.
7th of August.
7th of August.
I'm good with dates.
Oh, that's good. Look at you go. You keep everybody right, don't you, sir?
Yes, indeed, thank you. But yes, you were playing the... you've appeared now as the Metal Doctor.
Yes, I have. Whenever we were recording Dickensian's final episode, we had to make it big. We had to make it just... we had to blow it out of the water, so to speak, and Abby's acting is absolutely amazing in it. Like, she definitely, pulled it out of the bag with this one. But it was very hard for me because I was playing so many characters in the one time. And, because I had to play, obviously, I was the toy maker ultimately. I had to play the diva. So I just channeled my inner Bubbles DeVere.
Oh, yes.
From Little Britain. Champagne for everyone. And then I had to play just a random cleaner lady in the TARDIS.
Oh.
So, Cockney. There's different accents. And then I think the most iconic one is the Irish Sontaran.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So we just got to channel my inner Derry girl. Rude. Absolutely rude. But no, for this episode, especially with Dickensian's battle with the toy maker, we just have to have a little bit of drama, and so there you go, a face for a face.
And when was this all planned? It was planned for quite a while, wasn't it?
Nearly a year ago. In secret. We tried to keep it in secret for so long, and only a select people knew. Obviously, Ian Harris knew because he was writing the last episode. Me and Abby knew, of course. Jimmy Wolf, because he made my Sonic.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I designed Sonic, and Jamie made it come to life, so to speak.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, so I'm really excited to play Metal. Metal is a very, very interesting character. We've recorded the first 2 episodes now, and it's really good. It's just absolute chaos. It's just chaos. But we also, since we've been here together, sir,
Yes.
we have been taking some promo pics as well. So hopefully soon they will be released.
See them in some cover arts as well.
Yes.
And all sorts.
And there's a very big difference with Metal compared to most Doctors that has gone and passed. So stay tuned and see what that is.
That will be revealed, won't it? Oh, mystery.
Mystery.
Yes.
And suspense.
Indeed. Very good.
Yes.
I'm very interested to see what happens next.
We shall see. We shall see. Yes.
Indeed. So currently it's all gone through post-production now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything like that.
Me and Abby and another person, which I will not mention, has listened to 2 of the episodes, and they're class.
And it was fun being part of like the pre-production, like the writing and the music.
Oh, it's so good. I just can't wait for everyone to hear it. I'm really excited for it, like really excited. So we'll just see. Hopefully it's going to be well received. I hope so. If not, then...
Indeed, yes.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of writing and music...
Oh, yes.
Should we go to another segment about writing and music?
Yes, let's go to another Patreon exclusive video with a lot of people about writing and music. Ta-da!
So this time we are going to be talking about the Enterprise. No,
I'm down for that. I can talk about the Enterprise, no problem.
Sure.
no, we're going to be talking about writing. Bear in mind, I have zero structure, and James isn't here to tell us what to do like last time. So,
That's right. Speaking on behalf of every writer here, we don't have structure either.
this is true.
They waffle. They tell us structure is very important when it comes to writing.
Guys,
Never believe that a second.
stop throwing your conlangs at me. Stop showing off, all right? I don't know what structure is, but all right, I'm not a Tolkienian dude. I'm not a linguist. Don't throw it at me.
I am.
Sure.
We're gonna get that on a t-shirt. I am not Tolkienian.
I mean, frankly,
I am not Tolkienian.
I mean, to be fair, I look good at a tweed jacket, so one day I may graduate to Tolkienian. One day, it's the dream.
You need a pipe, sir.
I'm a writer. I'm a writer.
God, I do need a pipe. I definitely need a pipe. I don't even need to smoke it. I just need to have it and put it in my mouth and look vaguely.
That's the point. You know,
intelligent.
and when you make a point, you're going to point it at people.
It's like, why has Abby sent you a pipe? Because reasons. I'm a writer.
Yeah, it's my writing pipe. I'm going to put it in my mouth while I'm writing.
My writing pipe.
It's going to sound
when
crazy,
you're
but it works
pondering-
because that's what I used to do.
When you're
Genuinely.
pondering, you can just like.
I mean, I feel like everybody's got those little kind of like writing crutches, haven't they? Like the writing pipe to smoke, or the writing beard to smoke.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Just thinking
Just
here.
so long as none of us here is smoking the writing weed, we should be fine.
It depends what sort of script it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, you haven't seen what I'm writing for James.
Oh dear Lord.
So each of us kind of write for different elements of TT. Jed's stuff hasn't even come out yet within TT. Obviously, it's all over his channel, but like TT wise,
It's all over my channel like a bad fucking rash. So you know.
There's a cream
Jed.
for that.
Selling it
God.
nicely there, Jed.
Sponsored by Gur.
I mean, let's be clear. As writers, we all secretly think that all our stuff is absolute poo-poo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm quite fond of my stuff.
Yes, you have a beard.
Sir, what kind of writer are you?
A confident one?
You self-confident bastard.
I get to that point with every script where I just go, that'll do. That'll do.
Josh, I am not self-confident. I do not work for Big Finish.
Ooh.
I'll fire those shots. I don't give a toss.
So, like, so obviously Ian writes for Future. He's got some other stuff coming out with some other doctors later on in life.
Later on in life. It sounds
Later on in life that I have previously written.
I'm a writer.
Forget Tolkien, that was practically Adams.
And once again, Josh has written stuff for TT, but it's not out yet.
Yay.
So
We're saving
Tusks
it
of
for
London.
his 15th birthday.
Yeah. Chambers has got several out at the moment.
Writing it with my
Naming-
big toe.
Motion it with your big toe, namely My Dear Pip.
My Dear Pip, yes. Series 1. And I'm writing for The Queer Doctor, Thy Flesh Consumed, which will be finished by this weekend, I swear. I
And
promise.
if you can't find any of my work on TT, open your fucking eyes because it's everywhere.
Because it's bloody everywhere.
Can we just stop for a moment and did I just hear a Doom reference, sir?
No.
Tell me honestly, did I hear a Doom reference?
You make of it what you will, Captain.
I mean, because if I heard a Doom reference, you realise that if he asks me to do any of the music for it, I'm putting in the Doom riff.
Well, it might have been slightly doomy, perhaps.
Slightly doomy. Was that in the brief? Was that in the brief? We need a script here. We need it slightly doomy.
Yeah,
I can do that. I like
Need
Doom.
something very doom and gloom.
I'm very good at Doom. I like Doom.
Which
Me too. Have you read my stuff? Have you heard my stuff? I'll say this, right? So Josh has obviously written most of Tusk season 1. And he would not let me write his main characters because he didn't want them to have tragic backstories.
I wasn't letting that happen because I knew if I let her do it, she'd break them.
Are we talking like David Tennant in The Rain, or are we talking like Christian Bale in Dark Knight Rises?
Christine Bale in Dark Knight Rises.
I mean, there would almost be a Dickensian tragedy
That's
to the backstory.
that's quite appropriate.
Which is appropriate, yes, absolutely.
See, whereas I can. This is the thing. If you lot handed me a script and you didn't put your name on it, I could tell it was you. Genuinely, I could tell it was you. Like
how?
How? Because I know how you lot write, especially Ian. If they look like they've thrown up
We
a
know how Ian
thesaurus
writes.
on it.
Always long words.
You know, and that started purely because Matt Strax, as everybody else on the channel probably knows him, he made a joke that he really shouldn't have done because I nicked some terminology from classic Doctor Who, some lovely
Dimensionally transcendental,
all that stuff, and he struggled with it in the first read through, and after that
he bought a massive thesaurus, chewed it all, and just went blah.
Yeah. Well, you know, the most fun part of writing for me is the research, and that has become part of the stuff that I do for TT is researching all the science behind it and all the history behind it and all that kind of stuff. And then I bring in all the long words and make Matt say them. Nobody else gets those lines. Just Strax, he gets all of those lines.
Just the Doctor, which is
he
quite
did
nice.
mention in another video somewhere recently that I can only write long scripts as well. That's rubbish. I only write long scripts for him.
I challenge you to write a Paternoster bite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Write
yeah,
a Paternoster bite, mate.
That's how I started. I started writing little monologues and duologues and things that lasted for about 5 pages. That's where I began. So it would be like going back to the beginning.
What's that, Jed?
Just thinking, if you write something for the Paternoster gang, though, you have to write it with Strax in it, and you have to have him recreate the discombobulate meme from the Sherlock Holmes movie. Yeah,
that is the episode.
You know, if I do a pat bite, Strax will have long words in it.
Yes.
Not because I want to
are
write
supposed
them.
to understand big words.
Just have Jenny. Jenny would be so confused. Jenny would literally be like, "Mom, what is going on? Why is Strax broken?
Saying?
Strax is broken, Mom. Why? He said discombobulated. I don't even know what that means."
See, it writes itself. Look at that.
See? No, you're saying with like research and stuff. This is the one thing I've been at with Josh.
Yes.
Haven't I? The problem is
my research though is you.
It's because it's before Astroverse, so it's like 18th century London, which is like my clientele. So every single thing he's written, I'd be like, make sure you get it right, lad, or as I would be like, no.
Otherwise, I will tear it up in front of you.
And this is why Jed writes stuff set on the moon.
I mean, that and the fact that I'm I'm not gonna lie. I'm sort of sitting here thinking, how do you know when something's written by me? I don't even know when something's written by me. Fucking time.
Yours is mainly the formatting.
I'm sort of I got used to Google Docs because I used to work on the worst collaborative fan fiction of all time. I will tell you that story one day if you ever have a spare hour. No, it was
once upon a time.
No,
many years ago.
It was genuinely the worst experience ever, but it got me in the habit of writing on Google Docs, and Google Docs is just it's easy, it's accessible. I can write on my phone. The app doesn't decide it doesn't exist anymore like it did with Celtex. Fucking Celtex.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, that annoyed me.
But I use Google Docs as well.
Yes.
As well, it's nice because I'll send like editing rights to like Emily because she's my proof checker reader because I'm dyslexic AF. So she goes through and makes sure it's not in Chinese.
I'd probably still be able to understand half of it.
Well, the problem is like it's all very well using like Grammarly and stuff, but especially for the stuff that I'm writing, it's all like Cockney and stuff, and it's like that's not a word.
Grammarly will always say you cannot speak English.
No, what the hell?
That's the worst, isn't it? Like whether you're writing scripts or writing prose, then you get something like Grammarly comes in, and you've got this Cockney character, or any character where you're trying to show the accent, and we all know we don't speak in actual sentences anyway.
No.
So Grammarly comes in and goes, is this English?
It's like the annoying
I just very gently tell Grammarly, no, it's all right, dear. Ignore that. Just look away. It's fine. It's all right. Cover your eyes, dear. Go, shh, no words.
What am I imagining Grammarly on your computer? A bit like that old paperclip with the eyes that you used to get many, many years ago. Just on the side going, panicking.
Just shaking in the corner.
Bright red.
Because that's the way I write. I purposefully write the incomprehensible, especially when it's Lovecraftian, and I try to write ancient Lovecraftian spells like Ich Aya, Ich Cthulhu, Fatagan. Have you ever tried to put that through spell check?
In Molly 1, Molly does Irish prayer because it's Chelsea. But I wrote this Irish prayer, and it was like, what?
Yeah, you get this little message that comes up on your computer. Excuse me, have you had a stroke?
Speaking of that writing mood.
Should we call for emergencies?
I'm just imagining you write that down, or you write whatever the hell Cthulhu-esque crap you're writing down. Grammarly takes one look at it and goes,
nope.
Grammarly has left your PC.
All of a sudden, Grammarly just stopped working.
Grammarly has deleted itself.
But I'm pretty sure.
Grammarly has committed fucking.
It's when it tries to translate it from Slovakian, you've got to worry. It just randomly comes in and tries to translate it from a foreign language.
I mean, I've never used Grammarly, and should I tell you a hilarious fucking story? Not really hilarious. This is slightly bragging. So I recently got a publishing contract for a couple of short stories I sent to a local publisher.
Huzzah!
And apparently it's the least amount of editing the publisher has ever had to do. Like there were no spelling mistakes or anything. I mean, I spent £4,000 of my mother's money on a master's degree in script writing. It had
That'll
to
do
pay
it.
somewhere.
That'll do it.
So that will do it, man. Yeah, that'll do the trick.
See, this is the thing. I can't spell. My punctuation is atrocious, but that's why I have people like Gretchen and Emily rip my scripts apart to make sure they like it.
That's
yeah. Well, this is the thing. I got a D in English, but I got an A* in drama. So it's like, no.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, and I say this as somebody who has a master's degree, so this is slightly disingenuous. Academics and arts are like oil and fucking water. It makes no fucking like I saw on Twitter, on my writing Twitter, somebody asking, "Oh, would Tolkien have gotten published today?" And I'm like, "Fucking, of course he wouldn't. He was a fucking hobbyist writer who thought one day to himself, I'm going to invent a fucking mythology. Fuck you." And he decided, you know what? I'm just going to write it like a great big stream of consciousness when I'm high on pipe.
Yeah, fine.
And it's literally
typical bloody Midlander was Tolkien. I tell you that for nothing.
And the hilarious thing was, they asked him for a freaking sequel to The Hobbit, which was literally just story stuff he wrote for his kids. Incidentally, the funniest thing I ever heard was when his kids would call him up on inconsistency in the story. And he would, one would do that, and then he would just be like, "Damn the boy."
He would have been great writing for Doctor Who then.
I wish he would. I really would. I write somehow. We need to go back in time, find Tolkien, and get him to write a Doctor Who for us.
He wouldn't write a Doctor Who. He'd write the whole bloody series, and by the end of it,
like 13 episodes later.
Yeah. So he'd start off the entire mythology from day one. You know.
Oh no! We think that freaking Chris Chibnall ruined Doctor Who's history.
Welcome Tolkien.
Yeah, here comes Tolkien. Fuck the timeless child. You get the entire origin of Gallifrey from day dot, starting with God singing.
And his name was John Cena.
So when it comes to like writing stuff, so say you have an idea, how do you start?
Depends what it is. Depends what it is. I mean, you know, every type of text has like a different sort of process. I would have said for me. I don't know about other people, but
you've got to remember that all the writers have all got different ways of doing things as well.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, this is the shortest anecdote I'll give you, but the way I start a story is one of two ways. I'll cheat. I'll tell you this for nothing. I will cheat. I'll look at writing prompts and stuff like that just to give me the spark. And if something latches on, then it's almost as if you sort of see the entire story and it just sort of goes in your head, and you just sort of sat there going, now I get it. It's very Hercule Poirot. It's just like, now I understand, and everyone's just like, what happened? You know,
it was the butler.
It depends on the story as well, because I mean, I remember when I wrote Future Selves, that one literally just fell out of my brain onto the page.
That was me before Vastra.
Yeah. It just sometimes I think some stories are just the way your minds work. Others take a lot more planning. I mean, the one that I've got to write next, I've sat down today for quite a few hours. And the plan for the story is about 6 or 7 pages long, when normally for the TT scripts it's like a bullet point.
Oh God!
It can be like, you know, like a bullet point almost per scene. So it's like part 1, part 2, done. You know, and sometimes it's not even in that kind of detail. But I suppose it really does depend. But I tell you what I'm finding nice about this is the further the sort of series for TT goes on, the more kind of sort of the mythology that you've already written, all the crap that you've written before, you've got to remember.
True.
And how it influences the crap you're going to write next year. So it gets more complex, which is actually more fun, I think. But yeah, it entirely depends on. I mean, I've got plans for novels that are only 1 page long, where I've got plans for scripts that are 5 pages long. So
See, I've tried to write a novel and it's not for me. I'm definitely more of a scripty type, perform it type person. Not through lack of trying.
I'll tell you something about novels and short stories and scripts and everything. So one bit, because I like listening to a lot of authors' interviews, like Stephen King, Clive Barker, really crazy bastards. And Stephen King had this wonderful thing to say, is that he never knows how long the story's going to be. So if he gets an idea, he will start writing it. And if it wants to be a short story, it'll be a short story. If it's going to be a 400-page novel, it's going to be a 400-page novel. He doesn't actually affect it. It's just when the brain actually sort of goes, right, nope, that's it.
Off the back of that, I will say I probably got the best writing advice I have ever gotten from anyone, from Paul Mars, who turned around to me and said, Ian, just write what you want to write. Just write what you want to write. Don't write to a publisher. Don't write to an idea or a particular structure. Just do it how you want to do it, and that just kind of gives you that kind of creative freedom. It's just kind of go, right, okay.
I mean, that's a wonderful thing, because I love, as the precise second, I'm writing Doctor Who scripts and Doctor Who spin-offs for TT, but on sort of on the professional side, which is just me writing non-Who essentially. I write an awful lot of horror and sci-fi horror, of which is just the most batshit crazy stuff you'd ever. It's probably not even fit for human consumption. But what I like is that when people say, "Why do you write such weird stuff?" Because it saves me inflicting it on people verbally.
Jed is pondering. Jed has his pondering.
Jed looks ponderous.
How? Completely. I mean, for me, the whole thing of writing is it's. I write in all sorts of different ways. I've been a plotter. I've been a pantser. I've been a plantser. I write long outlines and then I scrap half the outline because I suddenly have a fucking burst of inspiration. And I'm like, yes, that. But the thing
cross it out.
No, been there, done that.
The thing that's the common thread for me, though, is music. So I'm a composer.
Yes.
I love music, and I love making music. And for me, so for my Doctor Who's, I'll compose music before I've written a full script. Sometimes I'll compose character themes before I've written a word of dialogue, because to me that's how I connect with the character. Here's the theme, here's the theme tune, here's the music, here's how this will sound, this will define the tone, this will define the everything, and if it's like, for when I'm writing my original novels, for example, I have an entire, for the novel series that I'm writing currently, which is there's two. There's my science fantasy one, and then there's my high fantasy versus superheroes massive novel series that's a pain in my absolute ass. But for that one, I've got a playlist which is basically half the Lord of the Rings complete recordings, and then the Zack Snyder's Justice League soundtrack, because fuck it, why not?
I was gonna ask them, because that's similar to something because I listen to an awful lot of sound, because I'm not a musician by any stretch of the imagination, but I do listen to an awful lot of scores and soundtracks. And I was just going to ask if you do that thing where you're listening to something randomly, and where this piece of music has come from. The film, the show, and the scene that goes with it. But in that moment, you're listening to a piece of music and you can see something entirely different. And sort of like the whole sort of structure of the scene and what you're writing is based around this music, which is based around the scene. So in a kind of way, you're shadowing what's already been written, but in a completely different way, if this is making any sense at all. This is just how my brain works.
Making perfect sense. So, really random example. Zack Snyder's Justice League, the soundtrack for that, the track is called Superman Rising Part 2, and it's a really heroic version of the Superman theme from those DC movies. And that theme, when I heard that theme while I was writing my superheroes versus high fantasy novel, everything about the final battle of the entire fucking novel series just took place. It was like, oh, That's the tone I'm aiming for. That's the feeling I'm trying to evoke.
Yeah, exactly.
I listen a lot to how composers about music. To me, music and storytelling are absolutely connected and absolutely, like, you know, they're interlinked. They're basically the same thing in a lot of ways. So, you know, when I hear pieces of music, they help me find the tone of the story. They help me find the feel of a story. You know, so, and sometimes it's as simple as finding. I don't want to talk about music on a fucking writing thing. I'm so sorry, Patreon.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Changes the tone of the story.
Music and writing.
But I mean, I like
well, they
that
work
you
together,
guys
yeah.
do that, because I mean, I do exactly the same thing. Again, not a composer, but what now that I'm actually listening to you guys talking about it and thinking about it myself, and I didn't realize until this moment that I do this. If I'm writing prose, I tend to write sort of, or I tend to listen to sort of sound effects of things. Whereas I write scripts, I will listen to music. And even like snippets of music. I mean, the last one that I wrote for Future, which is coming out soon, I listened to like the first minute and a half of the Revelation of the Daleks soundtrack almost on repeat for several scenes of it, because that was what I was going for.
I must admit, when I'm writing scary stuff, I listen to the Curse of Fenric a lot.
Exactly.
It's got quite a few nice bits. So almost paradoxically, even though, you know, because, you know, we listen to the music, therefore we got sort of a visual representation in our mind's eye. By that train of thought, we as writers, we write almost visually, because it's almost as if we are writing that, you know, a piece of drama, a movie scene, a TV scene, which is ironic considering it's either going to be prose or in audio.
Yeah. I can't do that. I don't know whether it's because of ADHD, but I have to have dead silent. I can't have anything else going on.
Really?
I literally have to be focused on the script. But a lot of the time, especially with the Paternoster Gang stuff and the Before Vastra stuff, I can see it as I'm writing it. So it kind of just happens in automatic. But I have to have dead silent. But I don't know whether that's an ADHD thing, because if I'm listening to music, I'm listening to music. I'll stop writing, you know? But that might be
the best way to put it is that it's a different way of the mental processes work. I mean, like, I will listen to orchestral music and I'll listen to anything, you know, any scores or anything. But if the radio's playing or the TV's on and someone's talking, that really puts me off. You know, I'm not one of these people that can listen to rock albums, you know, and heavy metal and stuff like that. Which a lot of people do, but let's say you just want to turn to whatever's playing the music and just go, shut up, I'm trying to think.
with the exception of one scene, which, so Streetwise, the patrons have already seen the cover for it, because I do cover reveals over there, has the Krillitanes on it. That one bit of music from School Union, I listened to that for the Krillitane scenes. The writing, like, typing away bit. But that's the only exception. I'll say this is one thing that I do, and my mum thinks I'm crazy for doing it, because I'll sit in the bath and sound like I'm talking to myself. I'll speak out scenes.
I do that.
That's exactly what I do.
So I'll be laying in the bath and I'll be being Vastra and Jenny and like Molly, and my mum will be like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Planning out a scene." Yeah, planning out a scene for Christmas Candles, like, because that's the one I'm currently writing. There's a really emotional scene. No, not emotional. There's like a really teasy scene between Molly and Jenny, and Jenny says to Molly, "What's Christmas like in Ireland?" This is based off an actual conversation me and Chelsea have had, obviously. "What's Christmas like in Ireland?" "Oh, you know, very much the same." "Oh, do you do anything different?" "Oh, yeah, we all go out into the snow and try and find a 4-leaf clover." And Jenny's like, "Really?" Yeah. And then Jenny gets like, "Do you know, we'll make this Christmas really special for you. We'll go out on Christmas Day and we'll try and find a 4-leaf clover like you used to do when you were a kid." And then there's like a pause, and then Molly's like, I'm just teasing you, Jen. I'm just winding you up. We don't do that.
I was going to say, I hate it. I love it. I hate that because that was melting my little heart.
It's just like, no, I'm just winding you up, Jen. But I remember planning this whole scene laying in the bath. My mum was like, what is going on in there?
I'll tell you what is annoying, though. I don't know whether anybody else here agrees with me, is that when you're writing to music and you can't find that bit of music that's really sort of there, and you're just like, no, and you spend half your time that you should be writing going, no,
go
that bit.
back.
Yeah, yes, no.
I mean, I this is why I have entire writing playlists though, because then I can just be like, I'm writing this. When I'm writing this, I need this sound.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When I'm writing my sci-fi, here, the Stellaris fucking soundtrack. Give me more synth. Give me all the synth. And all the
That's like me with the R101 soundtrack. I'm like, I want trumpets. I want big band. Trumpets. Give me fucking trumpets.
More fanfare.
More fanfare.
Is it weird that like a part of my brain at some point when I was reading the script for that went, bring on the trumpets? You
Yeah,
know?
no, literally, it's all like very military, very like patriotic trumpets. Yes.
Here we are. The characters will march into the next scene.
Yes. You cannot walk around the arm, anyone. You must march.
And I'll tell you something that Jed will appreciate is that my writing has the Star Trek film soundtracks have a lot to answer for. A lot to answer for.
The Khan soundtrack.
Naturally.
James Horner.
Always.
Oh God, there's so much of that stuff. It's like, I love how James Horner talks about it though as well, because like there's only like a handful of motifs in the Wrath of Khan soundtrack, but they all work beautifully and they're all in conflict.
Very much so.
It's just.
I mean, the thing is, I know the film was shocking, but I like the Star Trek V soundtrack. I think it's. I think
underrated as fucking like. I'm sorry.
But are there trumpets?
There are trumpets in Star Trek V.
Do you know what the thing is? When I think trumpets, I think the Voyager theme tune.
Ah.
I love that reaction because that's what I was doing inside. But I just kept it up.
See, this is the kind of writer that Ian is. He's very sort of inside whereas Matt is very outside.
Outside
Sorry, that's just me. I go to a comedy show and I'm just like, that's funny.
Mainly because on the inside it's so much louder.
Inside, I'm just like,
inside he's laughing.
Outside, I'm just like, yes, tell another joke.
Amused me. Speak more.
I am not bring me wine. Tell another joke.
How have you found writing Tusks compared to what? Because normally this is probably your first like not Doctor Who-y type.
Yeah, this is my first non-Doctor Who series, pretty much, to write, because I've tried writing non-Doctor Who stuff before, and I've immediately gone, fuck that. Because I hated the idea, because ages ago, because back in lockdown, I created a 1-hour audio drama as a project for drama, and I voiced literally everyone, and I wanted to redo it so it was better and was fully casted. And then I started turning it into a series, and then I went to myself, this idea is actually god awful. So I scrapped it. Fast forward to Tusks of London, because I write episode 1, 2, and the final episode. Episode 1, sort of, it was just always there. It was just like with Future Selves and that, it just went on the paper. But episode 2, when writing that, dear God, there was a lot of struggle.
I think the thing with Tusks is it's Who, but it's not Who. We basically called it Sarah Jane meets Dodger. That's basically the premise we've gone for. But Josh messaged me and he was like, how do I explain everything without the Doctor doing a massive speech at the end? Because normally the Doctor tells you everything has happened, this is why this has happened, but the Doctor's not there to do it. And he's like,
no, you've got a little 15-year-old Victorian thief who has no idea what the fuck's going on.
He ain't got a clue.
I mean, no, fair. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of can and cannot relate all at once, because it's even when I was writing fanfic when I was like, how old are you now, Josh?
I'm 15, yeah.
12.
Well, I'm just saying,
Fetus.
I was that age. I was writing all different fanfic and stuff, and when I got older and I was doing more fanficky stuff, I guess I always sort of leapt around different genres and leapt around different things, so I never had the problem of fitting characters to necessary archetypes that I was used to. That being said, there's a Doctor Who XP in this fucking superhero novel, because why the fuck not?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that those sort of things would be easier if it was set in the modern day, but because it's set in like the Victorian Edwardian era as well, you're like a little bit more limited. It's like, oh my god, there's a computer. What is this?
Literally, but no, like episode 2 of Tusks. Oh my god, that went through so many rewrites as well. Like,
I'll say this though. So Beyond British Shores, that's out now. So that script was written 3 times. I read it one time and it was Sea Devils. And I remember I spoke to Chambers and Ian, like, how would you shape this? And they kind of helped, but then I finished it and I was like, I don't like it. So I deleted it and started it all over again. And then it was sirens, but originally it was only one siren. And then I was like, no, they will have a group of sirens. So I scrapped it and I started it again. And then I was like, and I'm going to have them pick on Mr. Cooper because Mr. Cooper. So, and then I got the dream casting of Kath and Chelsea as sirens, which is just like everybody's dream casting for mermaids, let's face it. But no, literally that script, I streetwise, I done exactly the same thing. I wrote the whole thing and then I deleted it and started it again. But the problem is with the way I try to do Paternoster, I try to do focused episodes on each person. Like Into Insanity was Jenny, Beyond British Shores was Cooper, and then Cluster is Vastra. So I tried to shift focus. But the problem with the next Paternosters coming out is it's set between Mr. Cooper going and Strax joining. So you've just got Jenny and Vastra, which is really hard to write, especially when you have to split the team up. So I've got Jenny in a prison and Vastra not in a prison, which is a fun scenario to try and figure out, which is why I wrote the script and then scrapped it.
Of Strax or
well, we kind of had it with Cooper as well, because Cooper was just like Vastra's child. She just tells him off and mothers him all the time.
Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cooper, put that down. Alia, like, oh my god. There's a scene in Beyond British Shores and he's making out with Chelsea's character. I know, original. And she comes up and she basically cock blocks him. She's like, Mr. Cooper, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not doing anything. But the way Alia does it is brilliant. But no, yeah, so I have written scripts and then completely deleted them and started them again. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've had a beyond. Before Vastra, I sat and watched the whole thing. Like it just happened. It's just happened on the paper. Like it's old now, so everybody knows it's basically Ashes to Ashes. But straight from episode 1, I knew that Jenny was going to die of typhoid at the end. That's the whole premise, and the whole thing is Ashes to Ashes. It's exactly the same. And I sat there and watched it. And it's just kind of flowed out onto the paper. It was lovely.
Brilliant job on it.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
You did an absolutely wonderful job on it.
So much fun. I love that one. I don't think I will ever have that ever again. R101 was close. But see, have any of you had to write like proper like historical, you're trying to get all the facts right? It's a fucking pain.
I once was writing it was funnily enough a Doctor Who script, but one time I was writing a story about which involved P.T. Barnum. And I was doing as much research as I could on it, trying to figure out everything. to make sure it was historically accurate to who the man was.
I think because I don't know anything about airships, not a blocking clue, not a clue. I got this little book, and I went through, and I highlighted like all like the main events, like anything that's recorded that the ship's company actually like said to one another.
That's the one. Basically, that's how they made Terrence Dicks and Bob Holmes writes quite a few Doctor Who's back in their time, because the producer would say, we want a story set in the Middle Ages, and Bob, we want you to write it, and Bob Holmes would just say, I know nothing about the Middle Ages, and Terrence Dicks would go to
the library,
go to the library, get the boys' book of the Middle Ages, and work your way up from there. And then he got his own back years later, where he was the script producer and the script editor, I beg your pardon. And Terrence Dicks was slated to write The Horror of Fang Rock. And he says, we want a story set on a lighthouse. And Terrence turned around and said, I know nothing about lighthouses. Well, what you do, Terrence, is you go down to the library. I'll tell you something. There's something, it come back to me with that sort of horror. There is a script I wrote that I both threw away and tried to get historically accurate both at the same time. It was awful. I basically wanted to do a Doctor Who based around the witch trials of Salem. So I gathered all the information together, tried to get it all perfect, and work with the Doctor Who characters. And basically, a friend of mine who is so much more knowledgeable than I am in these matters, she turned around, looked at it and said, Matt, it's brilliant. There's only one problem, darling. I said, what's that? He says, none of this actually happened. It's a media affectation. So I just went, oh, sod it, and just bunged it away. Not long after, the BBC released a book called The Bastard Witchfinders. I was a little gutted.
No, I say, with the R1A1 stuff, there's like moments that I knew I had to get to. It's like every single one of the people was an actual person. All the names have been changed, and obviously, like there's no spoilers. People die in it, and obviously, I had to make the deaths more dramatic because most people, the airship crashed and they died. That was it. Straight away. So obviously I couldn't do that because it wouldn't have been entertaining. So I've dramatized a lot of the deaths.
Crash.
Yeah, that's it. But that's the thing. That wouldn't make entertainment.
Yeah, that's a big point. When does sort of historical accuracy meet the book? Yeah, where do the two overlap? Or what's the cutoff between one and the other? That's what I'm.
This is the thing because I go on, Jed. Sorry, darling.
Well, it's just for me. I think the sort of cutoff for that is. The best example I can take is A Night to Remember versus Titanic.
Yes.
I fucking hate Titanic because it's like, I'm fucking sorry. You have the band played on. You have Guggenheim staying behind because he doesn't want to let a woman die because he's that kind of old-fashioned patriarchal. You've got every single fucking brave as fuck bastard who died in the boiler room, and you want to make it about Leonardo DiCaprio
and a door.
I'm fucking sorry. I loved A Night to Remember growing up because that's the story of real fucking people. It's drama, but they were people. They did real fucking nasty stuff. Heroic.
Make it all lovey-dovey. This is the thing.
Like there was.
And I wouldn't mind the Leo DiCaprio version was so boring.
Yeah, this is the other thing because not a lot. I've been on a ship that's been delayed for voyage because it's the same sort of concept. And the R1A1 just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And there's only so much drama you can have on people sat on an airship waiting to go. Like it's very much let's hurry up and get all these scenes out of the way so we can get the airship crashed, which sounds bad. But like there's little key moments that I made sure I had. Like there was a lad called Cook whose name has been changed to Smith. Who changed shifts with somebody else because they were sick. So they were in car 5 when the ship crashed.
Called
Merchford, sir. No, the water bag above his head split and saved him. But the guy who was supposed to be on shift was in bed and he died. So like little things like that. And like there's a character called Leech whose name I've completely changed, who I can't remember what he's changed to. And every single one of those documents say that he ran down to the mess deck and said, "We're down, lads, we're down," like 2 seconds before the ship crashed. And I made sure I got stuff like that in. But dramatic license, that's like to an extent, you know?
I must admit, I've got nothing but respect for people who can write historical drama. I mean, you look at R101. Like I say, in movies, you've got Dunkirk, you've got The Darkest Hour, you've got 1917. Big thank you.
That was,
and
but you say before Bastra stuff, all that's historically correct.
Yeah,
like
I believe it. Yeah, absolutely.
Matchsticks,
I'm just saying it does lead into. Do you mind if I ask the assembled masses a question or two? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, it's one of those things. It's always been one of those things that I've never been able to write. I am far better in the area of completely whacked out fiction in situations that your Common Garden listener has not been in themselves. So you can get away with quite a lot. But the question is there anything that we as writers, if it was presented to us to say, Jed, would you write this? Ian, would you write that? What would make you sort of turn around and just go, oh, that's just not for me. Not for me at all.
Okay. There's a lot, because I'm a picky fucker, and and the thing is, I'm an increasingly picky fucker as I get older, because I'm at the point now where I'm just like, I'm 30. I've had more existential crises than I've had hot dinners. I cannot be asked writing anything.
Preach, brother, preach.
I mean, so for example, I would never write anything pure, straight, modern day drama or fiction. Never write.
EastEnders then.
Saying he's right, because
I would never write police drama. I would never write crime procedural. I would never write soap opera. I would never write romance or romantic comedy. I would write any of those things with a sci-fi twist, but I would never write it straight.
Yeah.
I would never. Oh God, and I would be very hesitant about writing straight historical. Like you'd have to really fucking sell me on it, because like I love historical stuff. I love watching it, but I have the research head of a dead toad that's been run over on acid.
I think we went to the same writing school then.
This is the thing, because I know, like, this is primarily like Doctor Who-esque, but I struggle with the sci-fi side. I'm much more of the like historical or like horror. The horror in the historical. So like vampires and the 18th century was just like Penny Dreadfuls are like perfect for me. That's my genre. My genre is Penny Dreadfuls.
I like that. A lot of writing is about knowing your strength. I mean, this is why, for example, I wanted you to write that thing with Mary from Nexus Point with all that World War I
historical
stuff. Historical. I know it's your strength, and the thing is, like, I have a lot of interest in that period, but I can't translate that interest into writing it and making it sound.
Yeah.
I still want you to write a scene of her yelling at white feather campaigners.
I do think it's got to the stage now where people go, I want a historical episode. Abby! Like, hello.
I think it does come down to personal interest, doesn't it?
Because
really?
Ian's done exactly the same.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, to answer Chambers' question, there is not much that I wouldn't try and write, because actually, for me, I spend less time actually writing something than I do researching it and working at that all out. It can lead to some interesting journeys. I mean, actually, figuratively and literally. I mean, I went and spent a long time in certain areas of Lancashire, going to particular places and researching, again, going back to the witches again. For a novel idea and that was great fun. I just think it comes down to personal taste. So I mean, things like if someone asked me to write, I don't know, any kind of script, prose or anything about some kind of football personality, I'd be like, probably not.
No,
not really my
again.
thing.
Again, this is a real world because, like I say, a bit. I'm very much like Jed. I can't write normal every day.
Yeah,
they got some. This is something. One of my criticisms with modern horror, horror in general, is there's always that start-off point where everything's all normal, and you're sat there going, "Get on with it."
Yeah, it's like it's like basically going, yes, we understand you are normal people, but
look, a ghost.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, your audience, isn't it? Because when I will write these more sci-fi or horror scripts, then there are normal. As much as my characters are ever normal, they are
Saying
not
that
typical
though,
people.
it's very much paternoster. I love like detective stuff as well.
Mm.
I love like trying to work out, but I kind of like it when the audience know and the paternoster gang primarily don't have a clue. Like, I do like writing detective stuff, which is quite apt because I was that child that would read Poirot and Agatha Christie and Miss Marple. I was very much, not so much Sherlock, more like the Agatha Christie.
Sherlock you learn to read as you get older.
Yeah,
I find.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't ever get into Sherlock, but
would you say that there's quite a clear correlation between what you like to read and what you like to write?
Very much so.
Yes.
Very much so. Like I say,
I very much enjoy writing smart. Yes.
I like pulp sci-fi and horror. The horror and science fiction that just bang gets on with it, and we're in action and monsters, blah, and stuff like that. I love that. I love that kind of thing because we're being treated to a picture of Abby holding a book of Penny Dreadfuls. Josh, what do you not like writing, or what's the sort of writing you turn down?
I'm very much similar to Ian in the case of I'm almost happy to try anything, but the one thing that I would immediately just like no is I'd hate to write police dramas, or I in fairness I'd hate to be asked to write a biopic.
Ooh, no, that's
I hate to do that because I don't want to have that burden of doing all of that research and looking at all this type of stuff, and then you get that one little bit wrong and it can screw you over.
No, you know what? That's the best answer. It's funny. It's funny that Jed and you mentioned police procedural pieces. What I've found recently, Emily, who was a uniformed officer.
Ex-police, yeah.
I've had conversations with her. I mean, I was writing. I started writing a story about. It's a very Hammer horror kind of idea. A guy gets an engagement ring to propose to his missus, and it turns out that it belongs to the spirit of someone who's dead, and he's going to come and kill them. Normal stuff. But he has this total psychotic episode in the middle of the street, and this copper finds him. And I thought to myself, well, how do I make this sound convincing? So I literally messaged Emily. I said, if that was you on the beat, like, what would you do? And she literally just gave me a whole list of the things and the steps that she'd take. I just basically listening to Emily talk about procedure in terms of uniform officers. Seriously, this woman could write a book on that alone. It'd be a writer's Bible.
That's one of the real upsides of the research as well, though. You get to talk to lots of different people.
I mean, it's even better because
so bad with research, though. Like, Before Vastra 6 has the Tusks of London in it, the 40 elephants. So I found out about this gang. And then that led on to, like, all this other stuff. And then I had to look up all the, like, department stores around at the time, and then Heinz baked beans popped up. That's an ongoing joke with us, but it's just the research I just disappeared into this book of facts that nobody needed to know, like stupid things like
that's the correlation between what Ian said.
Yeah, but I know about the history of flipping escalators. Who needs to know that?
Well, now I need to have that in the script, in a
I was
script
gonna say-
somewhere. and
No,
I'll be like, "Abby."
I was generally going to write a pat bite about it because it was flat. There was no, it wasn't like steps. It was just like a conveyor belt, and it went from floor 1 to floor 2. And there was a man at the top and the bottom that provided smelling salts for the females in case it was too much of a rush for them.
Whoa, man.
Oh my god, it was so bad.
But again, that's the interesting thing that Ian said. It's the correlation between what you write and what you've already read and what you've already known. So so I can quite easily write a story about paranormalism, demonology, and oddly enough, I can write mythology about the war between heaven and hell. I'm not Christian and I'm not a Bible basher.
It's just no.
But the mythology between the war between heaven and hell has always been a great fascination for me since I was a kid. So over time, I've kind of already done the research because I've already read a lot of the stories and a lot of the fiction out there regarding that. So I can brew a story up about how the angels and the demons quite nicely. It's like, when you've got to go out and research in minute detail about a specific time period, which is why I tend to keep my time zones pretty general, actually.
Yeah. It was like Match Girls.
Mm.
I didn't have a clue about any of this. I didn't know anything until I started doing all the Before Vastra stuff, and then I fell into that kind of trap. And
you fell into the trap, and
now the bloody charities helping do audio about it on our channel.
So you went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, of Match Girls, like. It's like...
But that kind of comes round and turns the point on its head a little bit. Like, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier on when Josh was talking about what he would and wouldn't write, and what he was comfortable writing, and the whole idea where you said about you didn't feel comfortable writing anything outside of Doctor Who. And I was completely the reverse. And I promised myself I would never write anything for Doctor Who ever. And here I am breaking that promise quite badly.
That worked out well.
And loving it. But it became a thing, whereas, like Doctor Who was such an integral part of my childhood that I felt that it was almost like saturating. There was almost, dare I say it, there was almost too much Doctor Who in my head. So I needed to do something else. And this is partly, weirdly, perversely in a way, this is why I like doing the Future series, because it's a completely kind of new take on an old formula with a new Doctor, a new companion, but the most fun I've had doing it is the one that we've just finished recording, because there's a new monster as well. We love a new monster. But because I was able to write something that was kind of brand new within an established formula, made it more interesting to me. Prior to this, I have never written anything. I think Jed was talking earlier about sort of fan fiction and things like that. I have never been tempted to do that, because it's kind of like it's somebody else's baby. And even though you're writing the fan fiction, you're a fan. It's respectful, actually, in a quite a massive way, to be writing something for something existing.
Really fun.
I'm almost the opposite of Ian when it comes to writing like Doctor Who stuff. I always find it more difficult to write original villains and stuff, and I always prefer writing a way to adapt and change already established villains, because I can find like interesting ways of going, ooh, that's the thing that happened in that episode. Imagine how would those things affect sort of a different environment, and how could you modify these villains into that environment? It's because it's like what I'm doing with with Tusks, and then also Dickensian, because both of those stories I bring back a classic villain, and I've pretty much just gone, right, so what if I slightly tweak this villain a bit, and then it just becomes a whole different interest, and it just becomes a brand new story as well.
I tell you what, there is a confession that I will make, is that initially I had problems writing stuff that was outside Doctor Who, because I'll be the one flat out enough to say it. Doctor Who inspired me to write. In fact, I think my first ever fan fiction I ever wrote was a Doctor Who. It was actually it was another Peladon story. Was my first ever fan fiction.
Well,
and
that's
I filled up this school exercise book with this absolutely dreadful story whereby you have all the delegates, they all turn up, and it's this massive peace conference, and it's going to be the moment that the universe experiences, universal harmony, and then the Daleks turn up saying that they're actually these envoys of peace, and everybody believes them. It was absolute nonsense. It was so much so I have the feeling that Big Finish might just actually steal it from me.
I was going to say, ideas from which have been used for audios since then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, pro Doctor Who is not beyond stealing from us lesser beings.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for War on the Moon to come out from Big Finish, because when we met Dan, we told him the concept, because obviously he says it in like a pre-scene. He says, I have declared war on the moon to 11 to try and get his attention. And I remember we told the premise to Dan, and you could kind of see the cogs turning in his head, and I was like, I swear down, if Big Finish turned around and said, war on the moon,
you dare mention this story, or we will find you.
I Doctor Who villain wise, we've had none in Paternoster. We have got some in the future. We have Cybermen in the future and Daleks in the future, but at the moment doesn't
sort of you know who turn up at some point.
Yes, with the yes, they do.
Yes. Well, and also obviously Krillitane.
Yeah, but not yet. That's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
Krillitane is probably the only so Doctor Who villain wise, I've written Krillitane, and my first date in Charlie was Weeping Angels.
Weeping Angels, yeah.
As weird as that sounds.
No, you got to start somewhere. I mean, this is the point that I was initially driving at, but I have railroad problems in my head. Is that when I was writing non-Doctor Who stuff, it's a flat-out confession. Is that I would write the story as if it was a Doctor Who story, like a flat-out Doctor Who story. And then, so basically, I wouldn't say right, change the names, because it's a little more involved than that. But there would be a very clever professor. There would be his sidekick. So if it was going to be a murder mystery, it'd be a bit like Father Brown, and it to be like Poirot. They've always got these psychics, and you're thinking these people who are playing these magnificent, very clever characters could easily be the Doctor, you see. And that's how I started. It was kind of like write a Doctor Who story and then alter it and make them human. So therefore they would have human emotions as well, which would change a terrific dynamic, because if their friend got hurt, they would react in completely different ways. But it allowed for a solid structure that I was comfortable with and I was familiar with.
See, funnily enough, you're saying that. I'm almost the opposite.
Okay.
This is with fanfic in general, but it's also with Doctor Who specifically, right? Where I got into this habit sort of when I was doing the arse end of my batch degree and then my master's degree. I got into this habit with my fanfic in general, and I still do it with my Doctor Who stuff now, where basically I'm just like, fuck established stuff to a certain extent. I'm just going to put in stuff I like, and I'm going to change it and establish new stuff. So like I wrote fucking Ruby fan fiction, and I created a whole history because fuck it, they didn't have one at the time, so I'll just write one, and it's way cooler now than what they've got. I did the same. I was in the Brony fan fiction. I did the same for that. And then with Doctor Who, like I created an entire religious order of fucking warriors who live on Gallifrey, and their entire job is killing renegades. And that's like it. I created a whole.
Ooh.
So actually, they are.
Why am I only finding out about this now?
Tell me more. Okay, so actually, one of them, a rogue one of them, is a villain in my series. They're called the Arbiters.
Yes.
They do not have names. They do not tell you what regeneration they're on, because they've given all that up in favor of wearing these masks and carrying swords and killing the fuck out of renegades. And they're part of this whole... So I ended up creating a bunch of random shit that's happened in my Doctor's life, starting with the quest for Ulysses. Then there was the War of 9 Gallifreys. And
Hang on, as in Ulysses, as in the forbidden, what would have been 1996? Oh, you dirty bitch! you saucy prick!
I'll tell you
This is like the holy grail for Chambers now.
I was just saying, we're going into some dangerous territory here.
So, shall I tell you what's fucking hilarious? So, I decided, because, okay, confession, I fucking hate the timeless child as a concept. I despise it. I think it's awful.
I'm not fond of it, I must admit.
Okay, so, but I said to myself, if I was ever to, like, take over Doctor Who and retcon the fuck out of this, how would I do it? So, the quest for Ulysses basically would start with Paul McGann showing up as the 8th Doctor in some other Doctor's story. And then at the end of that story, he would be fucking killed. Like, offed, just straight up dead. And he would turn around and he would say, you have to find Ulysses. And it would turn out that he was the Leakley McGann. and then you have no. And the thing is, basically,
that's very much if you know, you know.
But here's the thing. Basically, the story would then be every single permutation of the Doctor's history is true. Every single permutation of the Doctor's backstory is true, depending on when the Doctor steps out of the TARDIS at any given moment. The Timeless Child is true. The Other is true. Peter fucking Cushing is true.
Yes! Yes!
Yeah. but because time is fucked, timey-wimey bollocks has fucked it completely, and the Doctor, as a complex time and space event, is now any number of things at any moment. Which is why Gallifrey looks like CGI Gallifrey back when it's the first Doctor's time, even though it should. Which is why the
even though it should look wonderful and beautiful.
And cardboard.
Should look like fucking 1970s CSO or whatever. It's why the Time Lords are constantly, their looks are constantly changing. It's why all of this stuff is and is not constant.
As long as you have a big collar, you're grand.
Exactly. But the whole point of it was basically to say, all right, everybody defending the Timeless Child, you want to turn around and tell me that canon doesn't matter? Fine, canon doesn't matter.
Fine. Here you go.
Fine. Boom.
See how you like that?
Yeah.
I'll give you the nth Doctor.
Bitch. But yeah, so like that's a thing. That's the thing in my Doctor's history now, is that happened tens of thousands of years ago for him. And he's just like, yeah, it's all true. I give no shits. Fuck it. You know.
I love that.
Yeah. I know it's
I tell you what, you listen to people talk about stuff like that, you sort of sat there thinking, I wish I wrote that.
jealous.
I was here listening to that kind of going, I need to rewrite some of future.
Yeah. So Dickensian
for my Doctor.
Dickensian. Let's make Jed in the lineup. There we go.
Oh yeah, Jed would change the whole story.
There we go. Doesn't matter. Everything is canon. Everything is fucking canon.
Everything is canon. Everything is great.
So writing wise, what are we working on currently?
Oh, should we go in order? Yes.
Right, Chambers. Give us your list of 20.
My list of 20. Okay. Well, currently this weekend I will be spending 3 days writing and finishing the story for the Queer Doctor's 3rd season.
Yep.
It's a story called Thy Flesh Consumed, and it involves a high priest sea devil and a Silurian, a warrior princess Silurian, units come back, and it's a proper fanboy story, but it's a fanboy story that I've had in my head for a very, very long time. I obviously can't give away too much, but we're definitely blending Doctor Who and Lovecraftian fiction together, which is kind of how I roll, you know. After that, I swear, I will be writing the rest of My Dear Pip. Episode 2, the script is finished and it has gone off to certain members of the cast, and we're going to start casting on that pretty soon. After that, I've just got to write episodes 3 and 4, of which you will learn more of their wisdom later. And then after that, I have an idea for a mini series, which is Doctor Who spin-off, but it's kind of something that nobody's done before, and I want to get there before Big Finish does.
Fair. Don't talk about it then, because they'll steal the idea.
Well, basically, I am laying claim.
One of our patrons.
Copyright. Copyright Matt Chambers on the 26th of August 2022 at 21:32 p.m.
Yes.
It's a series which is a series that I've been wanting to do for a long time, called New Mars, and it's basically about the. It's kind of the ragtag adventures of the Martians, and how certain a certain company, well, basically the company, because ever since I was a kid, you watch the Sunmakers, you watch the Robots of Death, it's a bit like a Weyland-Yutani kind of thing. There is something called the company, but we know jack all about it. Well, they're coming after New Mars. Why they're coming after New Mars, only I know. And it's down to a Martian who is trying to regain his honor, a bounty hunter, mercenary Carnegie, who is Irish, and I've got Chelsea desperately in mind.
I was about to say.
No other Irish person would do.
Well, this is the thing. When I was actually writing it, I just thought, this has got to be Chelsea. This has just got to be Chelsea.
We do this a lot.
I'm hoping she'll say yes, but I'm just like, I haven't written you specifically, but I've written you specifically.
Been there.
And let's see, and Alpha Centauri is going to be a big part of it. The Draconians are going to come in for a bit of a smash up. We'll have Ogrons. It's going to be a love letter to the Third Doctor's era, essentially. But with some new elements. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be frightening. I want to try and do at least one horror episode whereby things are just totally backcrap insane and scary. But that's way down the line. I've got to get My Dear Pip out of the way first, and then I can focus completely on that.
Would you be getting like the Pels involved as well? So Peladon.
I was considering it. It is not beyond the realms of possibility, but at the precise second, I've basically got 4 pages written, which is the outline for the first run of stories is 4 episodes. So series 1's going to be 4 episodes, and then go for I can't write big long series. Like I said, I like to get on with it, get out, and go on to something else. Exactly. I like the mini series structure. And then besides that, I'm writing my vague attempts to be an author of some repute, writing science fiction, horror, or as I call it, the stories that are totally bloody odd, which is when I want my first book.
What's the title?
Well, actually I'm always saying if I have a book of short stories, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Tales of the Totally Bloody Odd.
And we here at TT will adapt them.
Yes,
audio dramas.
Yeah, TT's actually got the first dibs on all of them.
Yes.
So, Ian, what is it you're working on at the moment?
Other than Future.
I was going to say, if you cut Future out of it for TT, not much, but for a lot of other things, a lot.
Yeah. So, what are you working on for Future?
For Future, got very excited because the next 2 scripts for Future being worked on by other people. More about that possibly in a minute. So I got to skip ahead. I'm writing a 4-part serial for Future called Temporioceptive.
Nice short name.
Nice short name. That, funny enough, is in the script, and funny enough,
Matt's gonna
Jax will have to say twice. At least
more
and all I can really say about that at the moment is it includes a monster from New Who and a monster from Classic Who as well, so there's 2 for the price of 1, and it's going to introduce another companion, which is quite exciting.
Jesus.
So that's the TT thing. And for I've just finished a 2-parter for Chronicle, and in the future I'm probably going to be writing another future story after this one, but then after that, I'm going to be contributing to Queer Doctor for a bit.
Yay!
And that's the TT stuff. And then the rest is I've got a screenplay, another Doctor Who project to finish off, and a couple of charity things which I'm contractually obliged not to talk about here.
Food.
I know. I begged, and they said,
"Ian, it's only
five." They said,
It's
"No,
only
it's not
us and the
interesting
5
enough
patrons
for TT patrons. It's not interesting enough, so you may not speak about it."
to find out about it.
Find these charities.
Join another Patreon.
And then once I've cleared sort of like, because a lot of this is backlog that I need to clear. So once I've cleared some of that, I will
Piles and
actually
piles.
continue with my next novel, which is called The Corner at Midnight. So God
and
only
there's a
knows, that's my
cat.
cat in the background.
Scared the crap
I
out
was
of
about
me.
to say.
See, Jed, I don't know if you're doing anything else for TT. Well, you are, because all of the rest of the Luna stuff.
Um,
Tell them about Luna.
Oh yeah, come on! I want to know more about this because I like.
As in, like, the fact
tell
that
me
it's
as well,
been
'cause
on
I'm
a
editing the bloody
size.
thing.
The fact that it was just
Yeah,
like
you
in
need
the
to know.
loft. It was like in the loft somewhere
it was on
since
my
fetus was 2.
Oh god, no! It was in my Celtex folders waiting for me because okay. So years and years and years ago, when I was in my 3rd year of uni,
So in like the 60s.
fuck you,
Cheeky little beggar.
Bye, Josh.
And I will take my leave.
Go back to school, you bloody 9-year-old.
So when I was a lad, when life was slightly less shite than it is now, it was actually a sort of acquaintance of mine at university who said to me, "Why don't you write an audio play that we'll make?" So I wrote Luna, which is basically BioShock 4. This time it's on the moon, bitch! So yeah, there's like fucking cyborgs and war, and the whole thing is set in an alternate 1950s where Earth was invaded by Martians at the end of the 19th century. So it's basically I took War of the Worlds, and I thought, all right, what would Earth actually be like 50 years later? So I gave them spaceships, and the Romanovs run the army. It's ridiculous. I shit you not. So the Space Navy is run by a guy called Romanov because the Romanovs now run the Space Navy because fuck you, why not? Yeah. No, the absolute craziest thing about it though was off the back of that, I created a Lutece-esque character who's now called Mr. Z for reasons.
He was called Mr. B, but because reasons, we
And now
had to
we can't
change
call
his
him.
name.
So, why can't we call him that?
Lock the door. What?
So I ended up writing an entire spin-off series about him and the sentient cat that he runs around with. Because, and I don't mind spoiling stuff because people are paying to watch this, and I'm not particularly precious about my writing.
Fair.
So Mr. Z is part of a group called the Order of 26. All of them are Mr. A, Ms. B, etc., etc. So here's the thing. In the Lunaverse, when you try to travel through the multiverse, when you try and travel between different parallel universes, you get fucking shattered into a billion fragments and then reformed as this godlike entity. Mr. Z used to be a human, and he's the tamest of them all. There's one of them that's like Mr. W is a wish that got sent through the multiverse. Mrs. P is a cat that fell through a multiversal portal. All right?
Speaking of writing weed.
I give you every multiverse project that's ever existed.
No, we love it. And I say the fact that we do love a spin-off at TT, and there's many spin-offs for Luna. So, and we've had 2 spin-offs for BV, so we definitely love a spin-off.
We do love spin-offs.
Speaking of spin-offs, Josh, what are you currently working on?
I'm writing all the spin-offs. Yes, as the person who's incapable of not writing a spin-off. So currently, all of Tusks of London is properly written now, and it's all ready to get sent out and stuff when time comes. But currently, I've got on the lines right now an episode of Future called Lights, Camera, Action. And that is a very, very fun story, because even though it's got a new villain in it, it's very much a case of me just going, here, classic villains. And then I'm writing for Dickensian, and that episode is Dance the Life Away.
I was writing Dickensian too.
Yes.
Set in the 90s in London in a nightclub. And am I allowed to share who the villain is?
Yeah, screw it.
Yeah, and it's got the Mandrels coming back in it.
What? The actual honest to God Mandrels?
Yes. I'm bringing the Mandrels
You're a
back.
braver man than I gungered in.
Has anyone else got like that picture of Mandrels in a nightclub trying to dance?
Yeah, I thought because I just remember that I'm writing a story for Dickensian as well. I thought my idea
I think I've jobbed everybody off.
Yeah, I thought my idea was
So Jet,
which was bat lunacy and crazy.
Dickensian. Yeah, Chambers' idea is batshit crazy. You wait for that one.
I was just saying, can I tell them?
Yeah, go on. They've paid.
So they've paid. Yes, I also am right. At some point, I've been told there's no rush at the moment, but I'm sure that Abby will get her big stick and say, "Oi, right."
Right.
Yeah. I don't mind. I'll just say yes, mistress. Anyways, stop it, Matt. It was an idea. It comes from the glory days of late 90s, early 2000s fan film culture. And I thought, basically, the idea is the Doctor is to meet what looks to be the crappiest monster on God's earth. And it is a creature, an entity, made entirely of tinfoil. So you have the Nestings who can manipulate plastic. I'm pretty sure out there is a entity that can manipulate wood. This entity has a particular affinity for Baco foil. So it starts off,
everyone.
so it starts off with people just being attacked by the foil that's wrapped around their bacon sandwiches of a Monday morning. But it starts to get darker and grimmer, where they find a body and it's completely wrapped in Baco foil, but it's been poached to death. So they open it up, and this body is perfectly cooked. They open it up and thinking, "Who's cooking Sunday roast?" It's that kind of thing. And they realize, "Oh my God, that's a human body," and it's more. It's kind of like the Blob, but in tinfoil. And the idea is to wrap the entire Earth in Baco foil and bake it and consume it. That is my story.
If they can do a story where bubble wrap,
I was just saying, if bubble wrap is the weapon, then Baco foil is surely the nuclear option.
I mean, with that's fucking mental.
I have been asked what kind of crack I'm on, and I assure you, I drink a lot, but I'm drug free.
Not Doctor Who, Josh.
Yes.
Bonnie.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Josh, get it together.
Well with that. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, on non-Doctor Who wise, I'm hoping to start writing as soon as possible when I decide to get my research together. I'm hoping to write a 3-part series on Bonnie and Clyde.
Ooh.
Because I've always wanted to try and tell that story, even though they've done it multiple times. I want to do it myself, because why the fuck not? But yeah, that one's going to be quite fun to do, and I've made the logo for it.
And the theme.
And I've made the theme as well. And yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with making that. And then I've got a spin-off series I'm working on with someone else in a whole different Doctor Who universe called Meddlers in Time, which is basically Drax and the Meddling Monk fuck around with time.
First Mandrels, now Drax, and the meddling monk.
Yeah, and
that's Overton's, isn't it?
So Josh, here's my question for you, Josh. When are the Quarks going to turn up?
Oh no, I really want to write a Quark episode now. Oh,
don't make
that leads me to
ideas.
I was just saying that does lead me to a question. Or do you want me to say that? I do have one more question for the assembled masses.
Can I just say what I've got going on?
Yeah. I was going to say it's your podcast.
Yeah. So I'm currently working on the Christmas special for Paternoster Gang, which has got Molly in it because Molly. It's called Christmas Candles, and it's basically the premise of two people who own an orphanage keep children for their own gain, basically. That doesn't sound sinister at all, does it?
No.
It's child kidnapping.
And then obviously Tusks Free, which I will say now has the Mara in it.
Oh no, Chambers.
Yes.
Tusk 4 gets even crazier as well, because Tusk 4 has the Land of Fiction.
Small pieces in that. Is it
small piece of the Land of Fiction? Nice!
No, small pieces in 2. Small pieces in 2.
Yeah, small pieces
I forgot. I was going to say small pieces is going to be
and then small pieces got to be in Tusks at some point. Come on. More small piece. Everybody just do small piece, the spin-off.
Oh, yes. Oh, please.
Coming soon. As well, I'm writing a bit of story for future. It's weird. It splits up. So I'm writing Nevaeh's side of the story. Yay. I won't say too much about that. And then I've proper thrown myself in at the deep end because I write in this audio called Wasteland 2077. Mm-hmm. So it's in the future.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like sci-fi stuff. There's no Victorian people.
This isn't the Fallouts.
Basically,
spin-off.
So it's about a group of students at a university, and all over the news they're like, a nuclear bomb's gonna drop, and they're like, nah.
You're telling me about this.
Yeah, nah, it's not gonna happen. It's just propaganda, yada yada yada. And then it gets towards the moment, and they're like, oh shit, this is actually gonna happen. And it's basically them like trying to survive like an apocalypse, but it's literally just a bunch of students. And obviously they start off, they just get high and drink, and then they're like, oh shit, we should probably like try and survive and all this stuff. So
was I right in thinking that the genesis of this started off as a fan production of the Fallout universe?
Yeah, it was
right. Okay, because I was wondering if that was still going.
Yeah, we were going to do Fallout, but because we've got Last of Us coming out,
that's true.
I didn't want too much of the same kind of zombie type thing coming along at the same time.
Based in video games universe. That's something I'd like to write.
Well, so obviously we've got Last of Us. None of us have written that. That's a guy called Mart who's writing that series.
Ooh.
But it's an alternative line. So it's set just after Joel's taken Ellie from the Fireflies, but we go in a completely opposite direction. We've got new characters. I'm a new character called Rebel. I have to do a Southern American accent. It's very interesting. And then obviously we're still pondering about doing the Fallout audios. But also towards the end of next year, like video game wise, we're doing an Assassin's Creed.
Yes, because that's a passion project of Alia, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a DLC of a character who's a descendant, and it's World War I based. So we're doing that era of the Assassin's Creed stuff, but that's way in the future.
Way in the future.
I have a big long list. It's slightly
We've all
crazy.
got big long lists, and we
It's
keep
so
on adding
bad.
to it because I mean, during this conversation tonight, I think I've added about 3 or 4 ideas.
My problem is with tunes. So like Chelsea will say something like she said something about Labyrinth the other day, and now we're doing a Labyrinth.
Oh yeah, I remember that, and I immediately went, I want to play.
Yeah, we're doing it, but it's like 2024. You're thinking now, like I've turned into Connor. It's miles away.
That's how one of the characters that is going to be in My Dear Pip turned up. Is one of our Zoom script conferences.
This is the thing: when you get all of us lot together, even if you don't realise it. There's a scene in Molly 2, which was basically an improv between Strax and Chelsea. Yes, Josh, that scene. And like there's a character getting introduced in My Dear Pip, which literally happened by accident on a Zoom because Chelsea did something. And
I gave her a name, and it's just like, okay, this is kind of sad. But it's nice though, because those Zooms, there's that much creative energy going on. There's that we bounce off each other quite nicely. Yeah. And the thing is, we're not above saying, we don't physically say to each other, no, that's shit. Don't do that. That's crap.
We'll be like, why don't you try this?
Why don't you try it a different way? Because and that's what I absolutely adore. Is that if you really stuck for ideas, is can we just chat shit on Zoom and something will come to me, The
amount it's my downfall as well, because I just keep adding to my list because Strax will say something or Jim will say something. Like we're doing Hiding the Pride, which is next November.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about gay soldiers during World War One.
Yeah. Well, that's how the Ghost podcast
that literally came out from us just chinwagging.
Oh, go on.
I was going to say, it does show like we all have that ability to create a story because Chelsea, she says all the time she's not a writer.
Can't write, yeah. She is. She just can't sit down. This is the thing. She can't sit down and write. But the amount of scenes that she's written, but she's just acted them out on a Zoom.
Exactly, but it shows that we all have this sort of like creative, like story making mindset.
Well, it's because because if you look at us all as kids. And I dare say I speak for everybody. I know. Childhood for Josh was a week last Thursday. But I've got to be careful because I'm going to be the same convention as him on Saturday. So I've got to watch for low flying projectiles.
You've got to wait. You've got to watch out and just be like.
Oh no! I'm waiting for a clarion call across the hallway, and I'm just like, my boy. I'm proud of him. Anyway. I think I'm right in thinking after talking to everybody, having lengthy conversation and drinking and socializing with everybody, is that at some point we were all considered the outsiders and the misfits, and the ones that had completely different ideas about the world. You see, we don't think like normal persons do.
Normal people.
Poltergeist. But like I say, it's nice because we have that camaraderie as well as that creative energy, and it's absolutely nothing. All of a sudden, we've got a 4-story epic, and you're just thinking, well, someone's going to write that, but where the bloody hell did that come from? But it's lovely to think that we've got that sort of creative power base.
TT family.
I said there was something I have got to know as a fellow writer, and I'm going to ask this of all my fellow writers. I mean, literally, Abby, Josh.
I'm a writer.
Yeah. Yes, darling, you are.
I'm a writer.
Yes, I write stuff.
I write stuff.
We've talked about what we don't like to write. What would everybody love? Something that you haven't written yet, but you would sell your granny for in order to write.
I can answer this one.
I was going to say I will open this up to the floor and then I'll just jump in with my granny.
Go on, Josh.
Go on, Josh.
I've always wanted to do this. I've wanted to make this story for a while, but I've always wanted to do a modern take and do a full-on black and white detective film noir type thing, but do it now. But there's two sides of me right now where I want to make it proper dead serious and follow the track of keeping it in that sort of sense, or just take the piss out of it. and I've always wanted to do that.
I think a spoof of a film noir would be really good, because you can imagine the Humphrey Bogart Maltese Falcon kind of that kind of thing, and the way that he just narrates everything, and people.
It's the whole "shut up, Vanessa Redgrave" with all the midwives, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going, why are you talking?
When the narrator starts and you're all like,
who's he talking to? Yeah, but I like that. Go on,
Ian.
Ian, it's whoever's next. Yeah.
All I want
For Christmas is you.
For Christmas, get out my head, you! God damn it!
Okay, that's odd.
That was weird. That was we do that.
Abby,
we're going to stop doing that. That's
no. All I would like out of my writing career is to be able to write the stuff that I've got on my hard drive that I've had since I was a child. All these ideas that have developed over time. There's so many on there. All I want to do is write my original stuff. It might be good, it might be crap, who knows, but I just want to do it. The problem I seem to have is, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, is like I keep on adding ideas to it, and as I get older I get less and less time to write any of it. So I've just got this kind of storage container, metaphorically, on my hard drive, of stuff that I would love to just sit and write. There's like 5 series of a sci-fi thing there, and scripts here, novels there. There's just loads that I just like to just get on with. And if I'm ever lucky enough to reach retirement age, and if I know a lot of you that probably will never happen, I'll have been scripted to death by then.
That's true enough.
He died writing the script.
Yeah. It may never happen, but that's all I want. It's nothing specific that I really like to write, other than the stuff that my creative childhood brain started to put together, which I actually, weirdly, even though I was a freaky, twisted little bugger, I actually quite respect it. I actually quite respect creative thinking, which I want to go back and do all that stuff. That would be
Jed. I like that. Jed.
Oh God, what do I want to write?
Everything.
The world.
So this is nothing to do with fan stuff, etc. I mean, there's fan stuff I want to write. There's too much fan stuff I want to write. Like, I think I pitched a fucking Star Trek series at you at one point, Abby, that just hit me in the face once, and I've got a little thing for that written up and stuff. But no, the thing I really want to write right now. And this is the part where I tell you a little bit about that shitty collaborative fanfic I was on a few years ago. Because there was a character I created for that I loved, that I absolutely loved. Like I've never loved the character that I've created in quite the same way. And I don't know why. But the novels that I'm writing now were based basically on reworking that fanfic into original novel.
Mm-hmm.
I want to fucking finish that series of novels with that character having the exact, like, pretty much the exact character arc they were supposed to have. Mainly because, one, as I said, I've never loved a character that I've created in quite the same way for some reason. But also because, like, that character became a massive point of contention, and the reason that I didn't do that fanfic in the end was because, to put it in really reductive terms, I wanted to write an epic high fantasy, mythical scale character. And one of these other collaborative writers described this character as, he called her an adorable, socially awkward character because he wanted to make her a waifu. And I was just like,
that right?
But the thing is, like, for me it is, I just want to write things and not feel shit about them. If that sounds too and like I have a million ideas, and part of the problem is wondering whether I'm ever going to do any of them justice, which is the easiest thing in the world to do justice is novels followed by audio plays. And like, if you've got in your head an epic scale battle, I don't have a budget. I'm never going to be able to tell epic scale battles in fan films, but in fan audios, probably.
Yeah.
No, quite right. Yeah. Because I've got all the sound effects, so you can always come down my own.
Epidemic music.
Oh, sure. Like I say, I've done Doctor Who, Star Trek crossovers in my time, so epic battles is not a problem for me. So
I love an epic battle or two.
Abby,
Oh god.
I'll go last on this one. Yeah. So
Right. So, believe it or not, my favourite show is not Doctor Who. It's this lovely little show that most people haven't even heard of called Warehouse 13.
I love Warehouse 13.
I love Warehouse 13. So the concept of the Warehouse 13 is basically a place where artifacts are stored that cause mischief and mayhem throughout the world. And obviously, Warehouse 13 is the 13th warehouse, and all the time it's moving location as to who the power at the time is. Now, me being me and my love for the Edwardian era, before Warehouse 13, there's Warehouse 12, which is London. And I kind of want to do a Warehouse 12 audio. I think that would be like my ideal, like, I don't know. I would proper fangirl over that. I really was. But once again, it's a fan thing. That's the only issue. The other thing I'd love to be able to do is do a novel adaptation. There was this book series. I wasn't a reader as a kid, ADHD. There was a book series written by a writer called L.A. Mayer, and it was called Bloody Jack. And it was about a girl who dressed up as a boy and then went onto a ship and pretended to be a cabin boy. That was basically the premise. And I'd loved to somehow adapt those purely because they were my go-to books as a child. There was like 7 in the series, and they are all, that is literally all I used to read.
We can work on that.
Yeah.
We can work on that.
It's just getting the rights and stuff, not the rights, but like not getting into
this
the
is the thing. But well, again, like any fan production, you can sort of do
non-profit.
Do anything.
Yeah.
Do it. It'd be non-profit, but it'd be a labour of love. It really would.
Be fun trying to cast that.
It would. Yeah.
We're trying to cast like under 18s at the moment for like Tusks, and we've got a new kid joining us in our 101 called Matt Lines. He's playing Dominic's son, and he's 12. So at the moment, we're trying to cast all these like under 18s, get all the kids in. But yeah, I will use this child. Hello, like your voice isn't broken yet, has it? Come be voice actor more. Go.
Yeah, quickly. Talk quicker. You may become a man any time.
Record. No.
No, quick.
I mean,
So
yeah, go on.
Me? Oh, right. Okay. Right. I've got a couple of things I'd love to write. I'd love to write something surrounding Jack the Ripper. That's always been one of my all-time favourites. And
doing that.
I do. I mean, well, this is the thing. It's the only bone of contention I've got is that any idea that I seem to have, someone's already done it. And any idea that I have,
Me and Miss Tory.
Yeah, any idea that I actually have had, but nobody else has done, I worry is, it's pushing too far. It's too fantastical. I mean, basically, the idea that I had was that Jack the Ripper was a shadow being. It was something that moved through. It was actually someone else's shadow. So someone else was having the ideas of the murders and killing them, but it was the shadow that was acting as the avatar of this cruel, bloody murder. That's been in my head since I was about 12 years old. I'd also love to write. I mean, funny enough, one of the things I now want to write, because we were talking about video game audios, I'm not going to lie about this. I really want to write Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah.
I would love to, because I've always
really good.
I have always adored Tomb Raider.
Which Tomb Raider? OG?
OG, yeah, we're talking from day one, literally day one, Lara Croft. And
Can't wait for that cover.
I will be modest, I promise.
Depends who's playing Lara.
Yeah, exactly. But also the thing is that because I'm writing, luckily I am writing a lot of original fiction, which I'm proud of myself for, because I can prove to myself that I can do it. I'm writing an awful lot of horror. There's a wonderful story I'm writing at the moment called Vampires in the Closet, because I'm kind of trying to do this sort of Goosebumps era of stories, but they're a little more adults. So they've got the humor of Goosebumps, but they're just a little more twisted, you see. So that's the kind of the thing I'm writing at the moment. But then again, up until 6 months ago, I'd never read the Goosebumps books. And I was reading them thinking these would be the best fucking audios you've ever listened to in your life. And Jed has a question.
I don't have a question. I have a suggestion for your Jack the Ripper idea.
Go on.
You're gonna either love it or hate it. Peter Pan leaves Neverland, goes through puberty, and it's about his shadow being Jack the Ripper, because you've got Peter Pan going through puberty and all the negative stuff that, puberty is associated with in young men, then comes out through the shadow.
I love that, but Peter Pan's actually going to turn up in the Vampires in the Wardrobe idea.
And Peter Pan's in an audio that I'm working on called Neverland Bound.
So Peter Pan's actually going to be very prevalent in these audios. But that I love. But I like the idea that someone else's all the negative exists in this sort of shadow being. I've always loved shadows and things. It's sort of light and dark, good and evil. I've always loved that kind of almost binary mentality. But I tell you something, Jed, the one thing I have always wanted, I've written Doctor Who, I have written Star Wars, I have written ghost stories, vampire stories, I have written sex, horror, you name it, I have read it. I mean, my sex stories is really, really disturbing, and it should never be touched by human hands. But the one thing I have never written, but I've always wanted to write, and it is total fanboy service, I want to do Star Trek versus Aliens.
Oh.
And it started off...
Why did my lesbian brain just picture Janeway running from...
We can do that.
Janeway!
Obvious! Yeah, I mean,
in a strappy top with a big gun.
We do several eras, of course, because I want to, because it started off, this idea started off as a fan fiction. I was bored out of my ass of the job I was doing. So I'm at my desk and I'm scribbling away. And the one rule I've had, and Jed might appreciate this, I think a lot of people appreciate this, is that this could be the Wrath of Khan kind of epic, or it could be the motion picture kind of epic. If it's the motion picture kind of epic, just make sure that the bitch fight with the Klingons at the start is the best fucking thing part of that film. Everything else I can live with, But there's just certain fan projects I'd love to write and do, and I feel a lot more justified because I am doing my original stuff as well, which I'm very proud of. You see, and I'd love to adapt them at some point. But but I think now I've said it, I think Tomb Raider's going to be a bloody winner.
Yeah.
And
I'm well up for doing Tomb Raider. That'll work because we've got all those other game adaptations,
well,
and obviously we have the Jack Reeves stuff as well because they're technically game to audio adaptations.
That's true. And like I say, it's a genre that people don't really tap into all that much in fan productions. I know certain people doing fan videos, but
yeah, like
fan
audios.
audio, and I think with fan audios, I know it's almost paradoxical with Tomb Raider. You'd think would be very visual, but I mean, look at there was a beautiful series which wanted to be Tomb Raider but wasn't because of copyright issues. Was Relic Hunter? If anyone's ever seen that.
Oh yeah, I know Relic Hunter.
Glorious series. It had lovely characters. It was story driven. It was as camp as our attempts. But it's kind of there'd be some lovely stories, but again, there'd be no different. and this is, I might be shot down for this, there'd be no different to writing a Tomb Raider than to writing a Doctor Who, because you've got a character that everybody knows going into really weird and dark situations that deals with the unusual and the unexplained, and so you can blend those worlds together, and as long as everybody sort of comes out in the sunlight and everyone's happy floaty la la, then all is good. As long as you've had
Floaty la la.
Everyone's had a whopping great romp along the way. We're rocking.
As long as there's a motherfucking T-Rex.
Too right.
Yeah, I tell you what, to this day, because I'd played a lot of Tomb Raider in my life. About 2 months ago, I realised I'd never played the first game ever.
Oh damn!
So I got it. It was 99p on Steam, and I thought, right, let's have it. And I just and about one level in, I was like, there's chuffing dinosaurs. I just couldn't believe it.
And on that
note,
we're going to stop recording because I dread to think how long this is.
And that is the thought for the day. There's chuffing dinosaurs.
So this is what you pay to get, isn't
Yeah,
it?
this is going to be on a t-shirt, folks. You've heard it here first.
Thank you for joining us, fellow writers. Go out.
Thank you all.
Check out all their stuff, except for Jed's and Josh's because it's not out yet. But when it is, you will enjoy it.
Check it out, or
it'll be all here soon.
Bye.
And welcome back to the podcast. And my goodness, that was a very long segment, wasn't it? 1 hour, 50 minutes about the production process.
Well, it's a really long one. But you know what? It's full of valuable information.
Exactly,
and good vibes.
exactly. Which was previously a Patreon exclusive.
I know. Look how lucky yous are.
Free information now.
Woohoo.
Yes, good. But yes, indeed. I think that's the end of the podcast now. I think so. I think it's been a fun podcast, though. Happy 2 years to TT Productions.
I know, it's crazy.
May it go for another many
2 years.
many years, many years to come.
Thank you very much for listening to the podcast.
Were we ending it that quick?
Huh?
Are we ending it that quick? What have we got to look forward to in the next month at TT?
So much stuff that I'm not a part of. Never mind. I am a part of a lot of things. Like the touch. Oh, wait, no. I am actually in things. Hold on. Let me readjust myself. No, we have a lot coming up in this upcoming months.
Yep.
We have more installments of The Touched.
Yep.
Which is going to get really, really intense as the episodes go on. And also more of Reanimated. We have the first 2 episodes out, and the third one is hopefully going to be recorded in September. And we have more of the Agency Doctor. You'll be looking forward to, especially Metal, because Metal will be coming out at the end of August, and it's going to it's going to be so good. I hope everybody enjoys her as much as I have playing her, and it's just going to show this, like, I tried to incorporate Dickensian's energy whenever I had first got Metal. So I've been very exhausted throughout both of the recordings, and I'm just going to get even more exhausted. But you know what? We do it for the lovely people who listen to our stuff. We do it for our love of acting.
Indeed, and what a lovely sentiment to end the podcast on.
There you go.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for listening to the ToverTon podcast.
Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and listen to all of our stuff.